All right, folks, we have some breaking news for you before we get to our guests. Employers with fewer than 100 workers will not have to provide health insurance until 2016 under Obamacare, as the administration said it would again delay a key requirement of the health care law. Larger firms have to cover at least 70% of the workforce starting next year, according to the IRS. But there's rumors that Obama will postpone the whole employer mandate for 3 years, 2 or 3 years. Folks, this is King Obama once again exercising his royalty and changing a law. The whole argument for you couldn't change Obamacare during the shutdown was it's stated law, it's established law. But he changes it whenever he wants to, without any congressional approval, which is against the law and the Constitution. So that's where we are now. We'll talk about this, I'm sure, later on in the show as we go along. But joining us right now, and it's been quite a while, I've missed her, Judith Miller, Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist, Fox News contributor. Hello, Judith.
Hi, how are you, Steve?
Good, thank you. We have Chris Hahn, your friend here.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Judy.
Hey, how are you, Chris?
I'm doing great.
He told me he was your friend. I'm glad we have confirmed that, right? Okay, just checking. All right, I want you to see something here, and it's from Iranian TV. This is cut number 18. Let's give a listen to this.
سردمداران رژیم صهیونیستی ما رو تهدید هم میکنن، تهدید به حمله نظامی میکنن.
All right, folks, what you're seeing there, and Judith, what we played there was Iranian TV simulating the bombing of Tel Aviv and U.S. aircraft carrier, Ben Gurion Airport, Haifa, the USS Abraham Lincoln, in retaliation for a hypothetical attack on Iran. And I mean, and this, this just goes with more and more of the rhetoric. Tehran is also sending warships approaching the U.S. to send a message to the United States. They say, all as, we're giving them what they want in an agreement. I mean, how much more of this can we take?
Well, come on, Steve. I think you need to calm down a little. I think that this is the hallmark of a country that's kind of weak and trying to tell its own people that it's really prepared for anything, that it's prepared to defend them against Satans, be they real or fictional. This shouldn't be a surprise, but I really think that, come on, you know how much the United States is actually getting out of this agreement with Iran. And I would just point you to yesterday's, or actually today's, New York Times that points out the Iranian government agreement for the first time in years to provide new information about its nuclear, it claims was its now defunct nuclear weapons program, but to the IAEA, the international inspectors. I mean, they're going to give specific information about the work that it did to develop a nuclear detonator for a bomb. We're getting access to uranium mines and other facilities, laser enrichment plants that we've never had access to before. And this is the result of this agreement, which you and I agree this agreement's not perfect, but it's darn better than anything we've seen before with Iran since 2003, when the Iranians suspended their program in the aftermath of the Iraqi invasion by President Bush.
And so Chris, you have no problem either with Iranian naval fleets on their way across the Atlantic headed towards the U.S., the simulation of doing what they've said they would do a million times, blowing up Tel Aviv, while they want peace with us, while they want to make nice with us, while we relax the sanctions on them. You don't have any problem with that?
Let's be clear. I have a bigger fleet in my bathtub than the Iranians have in their Navy. So I'm not too concerned about the Iranian Navy. If the United States Navy wanted to take out the Iranian Navy, we could do it in a matter of minutes, not even hours.
Well, I'm not saying they're a threat to us. It's just a signal.
Look, Judy Miller is smarter on this than most people I know. I am still dubious on the agreement. I think that we have to watch it, make sure that they are doing everything they say they're going to do. We got to make sure that the 6 months after this agreement's on, when we get into a permanent agreement, it's something that protects the state of Israel and protects the United States interests. So I am with Senator Schumer on this, where we are going to be watching this very carefully and be prepared to issue sanctions if they go awry. But Judy's 100% right here. These commercials that they're putting out are the signs of a weak nation that is getting weaker by the minute, which is why they are at the table right now negotiating with the United States. The sanctions have hurt them. They know they need to make a deal.
How about, Judy, a nation run by people who, and this is why, and you know, it's funny, I just came across online Benjamin Netanyahu between prime ministerships, if you will, on with Bill Maher, describing exactly this, about how the Soviets and the U.S., they didn't blow each other up because neither one of them wanted to be blown up. There was mutually assured destruction, which prevented either one from firing first. They knew they'd be retaliated against. But when your whole supreme leadership, the people who run the country, is based on a religious doctrine of Armageddon and the missing imam coming down to bring them all to their heaven, you're not dealing with sane, rational people. So if they say they're going to destroy Israel and bomb Tel Aviv, if they say we're a meddlesome big Satan, as they talk peace with us, why should we not believe them and take them at their word?
Because their actions have been belied by their words, because they've been inconsistent for years and years. I wish the Iranians were a little bit more irrational so that we could point to things that they do that are, you know, that would raise those kinds of
How about killing our soldiers in Afghanistan?
Hey, you know, that was very much in their interest as they perceived it at the time. That I found, as somebody who's used to visit Iran a lot, that the mullahs are all about self-preservation and the preservation of their power, and they go on talking this talk, but the walk is very, very different. And they are extremely calculating. They make judgments about how strong the United States is, to what extent it's willing to pursue its interests in the region. These are smaller compared to us, but very, very calculating players. So I really don't see them as irrational at all, and I don't think they believe in Armageddon. What they believe in is staying in Tehran and not going back to those dusty little mosques in Qum and the little towns they came from. They love power. Yep. They want to keep it.
Well, now that they know that there are scaled-down replicas of their ships floating around in Chris Hahn's bathtub, I don't know.
Oh, no. I have a much larger Navy in my bathtub than they have in their port.
Oh, okay. How do the rubber duckies feel about the invasion of the Iranian ship? Anyway, Judy, let me ask you this. We're coming up, if it's not today, maybe it's tomorrow, the third anniversary of Mubarak. Is that possible, of being ousted from power?
Yes, as a man who just wanted to die in Egypt, he is certainly hanging in there. Yeah. And this is his really moment of vindication, because another general, al-Sisi, is going to declare, we believe, any minute that he's going to run for the presidency of Egypt. And if public opinion polls are any indication, he's likely to win, Steve, by a landslide.
Yes, much to the chagrin of Barack Obama.
And much to the chagrin of the Muslim Brotherhood.
Yes, which will be outlawed and will be done away with.
Which had its chance to govern and did so badly that it was repudiated by a majority of Egyptians.
Yet, how do you explain though that this is so upsetting to Barack Obama and the administration, that they have or haven't, or a little or a lot, cut off some aid to the Egyptian military, and if they had their druthers, would want Morsi released and would want the Brotherhood back in the process?
Well, let's look at our rhetoric and our actions also. Right. I mean, here again, come on. Yes, they've been talking about these things, but very little has been done to Egypt, and a great deal of quiet cooperation continues, both between Israel and Egypt and between the United States and Egypt. And basically, apart from Kerry, who just loves to hear the sound of his own voice.
You mean the guy who was shot at by live bullets and took shots while he was in Vietnam? Yeah.
Apart from our Secretary of State, John Kerry, you haven't heard a lot from the White House lately about how Morsi has to be brought back, and the military government must go. They've really toned it down.
We have to stand for the democratically elected leader of any country, no matter how much we despise that person.
Well, that's their view. I think they have mishandled Egyptian policy from the beginning. They are handling it slightly less badly than they did in the beginning. But I think, as someone who lived in that country and has a sense of it, when I was there just before the military took back over, everyone, even people who had been for the revolution, were saying the military has to take over to save Egypt. That's what's happened. It's not pleasant. There's some excesses that I think all of us deplore, but in terms of the stability that the ordinary Egyptian seeks and the economic progress that they want to see for their country, this regime has the support of I'd say, a majority of the people.
What makes you say that the secretary likes to hear the sound of his own voice?
Oh, he talks and talks and talks, whether it's on Syria or Egypt.
Or Israel.
Syria, I mean, he keeps talking about Assad stepping down, Assad must be gone. But no one else in the White House, even in the White House, is now saying that. Everyone understands that if there's going to be any progress at Geneva II, that's not going to happen.
All right, and let me ask both of you, and start, of course, with, as you alluded to, Mr. Hahn, the expert. The situation with Israel, we could talk about how they screwed up Syria, where we are with Syria, Egypt, Libya, Benghazi, the whole thing. But, to me, I've never seen a Secretary of State. Basically, he really has said to Israel, if you don't come to the peace table, or if they don't come to the peace table, well, there could be another intifada. If they don't come to the peace table, well, there's a talk of economic boycotts throughout the world in the European Union. I mean, it's basically paving the way for these things to happen with an implied threat. And this is unprecedented for a U.S. Secretary of State. And then when he's critiqued back he said no Jew has ever been killed, no Israeli has ever been killed from a terrorist from the West Bank. When the family members of those who had been killed spoke out, that's when he said, well, I've taken shots from people with real bullets. I mean, what's going on here?
Well, look.
Well, no, Judy first, the real expert.
No. This is, I think that Secretary Kerry has done some impressive things that I wasn't sure could be done.
Well, he has managed to keep his hair nice into a ripe old age, yes.
No, come on, Steve. He did manage to take an extremely awkward and difficult situation, humiliating situation for the United States, which was the president's kind of back down on a military strike in Syria, and turn it into an agreement on chemical weapons removal, which is really vital for Syria. And he is trying big things. He wants to aim big. He does want to achieve some kind of breakthrough in Arab-Israeli peace negotiations. Whether or not this is the moment, I tend to think that it's not the moment for that, with the upheaval in the Arab world that exists. But so he tries, and I can't deny him that. It's just that the talk, the talk is so out of sync with the reality on the ground, and even with what his own White House is saying, that one does wonder at times whether or not he's kind of serving as Secretary of State in a different administration.
Chris, you agree?
Well, look, he's talking a little too tough with Israel for my taste, but Israel does need to come to the peace talks.
Wait. What do you mean they need to come to the peace talks? They are at the peace talks. It's the Palestinians who want preconditions and have for years.
Yeah, I don't agree with the preconditions.
What do you mean you don't agree?
Look, I think he's a little bit. Look, he's been a little bit too harsh on Israel. Judy hasn't said anything I disagree with, so it's kind of hard for me to be the counterpoint here. I tend to be. Look, I'm a New York Democrat who tends to be a little bit more pro-Israel than maybe the rest of the party nationally, and I do think that Kerry's been a little bit too tough. But you're right, Judy. He has done some things. The situation in Syria couldn't have been worse.
And it's working out real well now.
Well, we're not even talking about how, we're not even talking about the diplomatic blunders that were that had taken place last year. They're kind of faded from our memory as we move forward with a new direction in trying to solve that crisis.
All right. Hey, Judy, always great to talk to you. Thank you so much.
Great to talk to you, Steve.
All right, take care. Not that it's not great to talk to you, but that was Judith Miller, Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist, Fox News contributor, and, of course, our friend Christopher Hahn, who will return in the next hour after we do the Hillary interview. But, again, how do you feel about we touched on it before Judy started, Chris, the mandate for small businesses now being delayed. How do you feel about, here's another example, no matter what you say about the Republicans' excuses on immigration, here's another example of the president breaking the law by changing an existing law because he wants to.
I think it's a little harsh to say he's breaking the law.
Well, what's he doing?
I think there's some leeway in the law for him to do implementation. But, of course, look, I'm for single payer. We wouldn't be having any of these problems had we just enacted a single payer system in this country. We had that. We wouldn't have to worry about small business mandates. Everybody would be paying their fair share and everybody would be getting the coverage that they deserve. Wow. I think that what we tried to do was fix a bad system. The system is a little bit better now. Definitely better than it was before.
Now. How do you say, based on what? Do you understand all the people who are in hell right now, trying to find an oncologist, trying to find a new hospital, trying to find a new doctor, trying to find who's going to cover their medications, trying to sign up still and not being able to sign up?
Let me tell you, by the end of this year, it is all going to be taken care of. Right now, it's a little bit of a problem, a little bit of hardship for somebody, but you know what? At least there's levels of coverage that you're getting for what you're paying for. Before the Affordable Care Act, who knew what you were going to get? You might have bought a plan for $80 a month that basically gave you a card that said you were insured.
That's right. You stupid 85% of Americans who liked your health insurance before Obamacare, you're morons. They gave you a card, but you had no insurance.
But 85% of Americans, I'm talking about the people in the individual market, 80% of the Americans are not in the individual market. They get employee coverage, and that is not changing for 80% of Americans. It's
all going to change.
It's not changing.
At the end of this year, unless Obama breaks the law and extends it. Anyway, all right, Chris, great to talk to you. Chris Hahn, we're coming back. Steve Malzberg Show right here on Newsmax TV.
The Steve Malzberg